are hot takes as we head into the hot third quarter. Very tied up ball game. Close. Only 2 points. As Connor is all over the court, totally untouched. All right, so our NBA topic this week is we're going to talk about the very team on here, the Atlanta Hawks. As I mentioned last week, with a coaching change that they went through. And if you haven't seen it, Connor and I actually talked about who should be the Atlanta Hawks' next coach. But the Hawks went on an 8-0 streak. That streak skidded a little bit, but their current record is they are 23-3. They're 6 in the East. Pull up, Trae Young. You got to do it. They're 6 in the East, and they are 11-9 at home and 12-14 on the road. Their next schedule is coming up starting tonight. They have Phoenix, they play the Spurs, they play the Pellies, and they play the Warriors. Some big names to note for any one of you that hasn't had time staring down at the Hawks is obviously Trae Young. He is their scoring leader, and he's actually third in the league for assists. Did you know that his number of assists per game is above Chris Paul?
I did not know that.
Yes, so Trae Young
That's
actually
pretty big.
that is pretty big considering Chris Paul crossed the 10,000 mark this week. Someone else also is John Collins does well for them, but they have a pretty solid team. So Connor, where do you see these Hawks landing this year?
You know, I I'm one of those people, and I'm going to do a cross sport take, but I'll get there. I'm one of those people when you think about quarterbacks, for example, you got about three quarterbacks that can go win a Super Bowl. Everybody else, you're either trying to put the players around them to win a Super Bowl, or you're about ready to draft your next quarterback. There was a trade that the Hawks just made that I want to talk and get your take on, but they traded Rajon Rondo for Lou Williams, and a big trade. Everyone was all up in arms about it, and I'm kind of thinking, for what? Why does that matter? I don't see the Hawks. I see the Hawks maybe making it out of the first round, depending on their who their matchup ends up being. But after that, I mean, nobody. In so many ways, you got the big three in the East, right? You've got Philly, you've got Brooklyn, and you've got Milwaukee. And if you're not making moves to get into a position to beat one of those three teams, why bother? I don't know. Call me a little bit of a pessimist here this evening, but I'm not into what the Hawks are selling these days. I think Trae Young is really good, and I think they've got a couple good young pieces. But at the end of the day, um, you know, the last thing I would like to see is somebody like a Trae Young really, really struggle and waste a lot of his career, and then end up kind of being a journeyman guy that at the end of his career gets to be a part of a championship winning team.
We're split on this one tonight. I'm actually really enjoying what the Hawks are putting down. I think the Clint Capella trade that they had back in February has been what they needed. He leads the league in rebounds, and that's what you kind of need. I think Trae Young, as you say, the quarterback piece. Um, Trae Young is definitely sort of that piece to build a franchise around, and their coaching change has look Bacon. Their coaching change has helped them have sort of a revival in their roster. Is this their year? I think the ceiling for them is to be a 4 through 6 seed because 4 through 6 right now are all in a very tight window. They're all like 1 or 2 games apart of records. So I see them finishing a 6 seed, not have to play the play-in round to the playoffs, and having that first play-in bye. I think they have a lot of the good pieces, but
So then what? You lose to the Milwaukee Bucks in five?
maybe, right? I think they could. It depends on what they're going to do with the rest of their schedule. I think their schedule, especially this week, is very telling. How do they do against Phoenix tonight? Do they hang in there or do they get absolutely pummeled? Do they beat Golden State? But then again, that Golden State win isn't massive because Golden State has shown this year that if they don't have Curry, they don't have much. So I think that if this team, if they're not this year, they're in a position, if they get the right leadership to and maybe some other pieces, they can go in the next direction. But I don't see them as the Hawks of old or the Hawks of the past couple decades, um, where they're struggling to be an 8 seed in the playoffs and they get swept in 4. I think this team is really starting to turn the corner. So I like this team. I have faith. This is my last week I called out. This is the one that you kind of need to watch, and this is the one you kind of need to see where they're going.
Have the Hawks ever played in a finals?
I don't think the Hawks have ever played in a finals, or if they did, it was a while ago. These are moments when we need a producer, Connor,
We need we definitely need a producer.
because it's really
Maybe
hard
I
to.
could ask Ronan to be our producer.
Is Ronan good with looking up stats? Or is Ronan
Ronan
just
can look
saying
up
woof?
stats.
Or Ronan just says woof?
I mean, Ronan has a hard time to communicate the stats, but he can at least look them up.
Ronan used to try to sabotage the show and he tried to eat your headset.
Well, Ronan has indeed tried to sabotage the show a little bit this evening by running over the cord of my
Again?
headset.
Oh,
But
Robro.
producer Ronan really just trying to keep us on our toes here. So, no, I don't know. I think it's kind of like in the West, right? If that move where the Hawks traded Rondo for Lou Williams, I think made a lot more sense for the Clippers than for the Hawks. Um, I think trying to and the one speaking of needing a producer, the one thing I don't know off the top of my head is is it a situation where they're just trying to get some salary dump or get a couple pieces for another big trade, right? Speaking of Milwaukee, maybe a guy like a Giannis would want to come to Atlanta and team up with a guy like Trae Young. I think there's a variety of things to think about, and because Atlanta gets talked about so many times like this also ran sports market, and Atlanta is the number one sports market, in the Southeast. There are so many. It's like the state of Alabama's professional teams are the Atlanta teams, So I think that I would love to see long term and kind of be in that room long term with what the Hawks were thinking, as they are understanding that Trae Young is a generational type talent, could be a generational type talent, and they got to really make this happen because they don't want to lose some peak years of a generational talent or have him leave early.
Right. So let's switch gears here. I have the NBA standings in front of me, and here's the way the East is shaking down, where there are a lot of teams that have similar records. And this is either they have a 23 win, they basically have 23 wins, and these are the teams with those records in the East. Starting with fourth seed is Charlotte, then New York, then Atlanta, then Boston, then Miami, and Indiana is 21 and 24. So out of all of those teams, I feel comfortable in saying I see Atlanta finishing above all those teams in the standings. They were in fourth last week, so this whole part of the East from 4 through 8 is dicey, and Miami has shown that they have just bubble hangover. They left their gumption in Disney World. Then they've had a lot of stuff go sideways for them depth-wise. But out of all those teams where it's 4 through 8 have similar records, where do you put the Hawks finishing?
Let's see, Hawks versus Knicks. I'd put the Hawks over the Knicks.
Right?
Hawks over 4 through 6. So we're looking. So the Celtics are not in that list.
The Celtics they're the 7 seed. They're one seed below Atlanta.
I think that the Celtics really could turn it around because some of the depth that they added. I mentioned Evan Fournier. It was not a starter on a good team. Evan Fournier could sure as heck come off the bench and make a really big time impact, along with Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And they have, Celtics will have Kemba Walker coming back from injury. I could see the Celtics making a run. And I kind of put this game right here, a Charlotte Atlanta to push. But I would say for sure they're above the Knicks.
Okay, so you would have the Knicks as the 4 seed, then the Hawks as the 5 seed, and then you would say Charlotte.
I'd have Boston at 4. We'll go Boston, Hawks, Charlotte, and then New York, the Knicks.
Okay. I would actually go Hawks, Charlotte, then the Knicks, and then I put Miami over Boston, and then have Boston sit at 8 based on what we've
Ooh,
seen out of everyone this year. I think that Boston is really sort of, we said it, Brad Stevens, it was one of our preseason things. Brad Stevens has really kind of been giving away the farm, and when is that not going to work? He's doing the Bill O'Brien experiment, but in basketball, and it seems like it's catching up to him a little bit, at least this year, as they sit at 23 and 24, 3 and 5 in their division.
that we need to, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, Rutledge. How do you think the this next week for the Hawks is gonna end up?
I see them with their schedule. Remember, their schedule is Phoenix, Spurs, Pellies, and Warriors. I can see them going out of 4 games, 3-1 with a loss to Phoenix.
Ooh, 1-3. Heard it here first. Hot takes.
Oof.
Actually, no, I take that back. 2-2. I think they're gonna beat the. I think they can beat the Pellies. Spurs are pretty good, and I've become more and more of a Suns fan as this season has progressed. I think the Suns can really heat it up out west.
Yeah, I don't think they have. I think the Suns, hot take on my side, I think the Suns are going to be the team to beat in the West when we go to the playoffs. They'll even knock down the Jazz.
That would be
Which
good.
The Suns sit second in the West right now. So,
Yeah, for sure. So we'll we will be enjoying as this season progresses. That's for sure.